What is going on? It's a year in
Happy
review.
year in review.
Oh my gosh. What is going on, Karen?
Oh man. Um, I'm in awe. I'm in awe that we're here a year later. I'm in awe that we have so many awesome panelists that want to spend this time with us talking about the year that just passed and what's ahead.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's exciting. And y'all, before we got 30 seconds before we start bringing in that first group of speakers. But we're excited just to see what they've been up to. I know I'm so grateful to Karen that we met this time last year and just really the heart of C3 was really around doing collaboration, not pontification. I tried to rhyme on purpose. And it really was around just us as professionals being available as community for each other. And just like I said, it being a co-op, right? Nobody trying to one leg up anybody, but just being your best version of you while we all try to get better each and every day. So excited to be here, Karen. Karen, again, just for folks who are out there listening for the first time, your heart behind just really kicking C3 off.
I knew that there's that proverb, right? That if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go further, go together.
Yeah.
That was the inspiration. I was like, I can't be doing this alone if I'm expecting to go very far.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So without further ado, y'all, because we got time slots for all our speakers, because we got a bunch of them that said, "What's up?" We down. So we're about to bring up some of them now. Yeah, there's Geraldine. Oh, there's Sharon. Nick Dillon's in the house. What is up, everybody? What is going on?
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
As well. Good to see everyone again.
Great to see
Yes.
you. I'm going to go just clockwise here, with the way it looks on my screen anyway, and just start to introduce the folks who are here with us and who they are and what they talked about with us. But I'd like to know from each and every one of them, how was your year? How was, what did you garner from not just the C3 community, but any other resources? What has moved forward in the past year? So we're going to start with Geraldine.
Well, hello.
Hi, Geraldine is an HR and leadership development consultant. She was here with us in September to talk about organizational leadership.
Yes, and even more so now than ever with everything that's been going on, it's been just a very critical aspect. And I think that over the last year, we've just had to build those relationships differently than ever before because everything pretty much online. Even those that you've known before, you've had to network very differently. So I think one of the most critical aspects over the last year is for leaders to know who's on their team and build a different relationship because everyone's working from home, working differently, and having a whole different set of things that they've had to deal with in the transition from the office to home. If you've not worked from home before, that in itself was a transition. So to lead under those circumstances has its own different set of challenges in building relationships. So for me over the last year, that's what it has been for me in building relationships with those that I'm working with and working for. So that's been, a great challenge, but it's also been very enlightening to learn some things a little bit more on the personal side than we would have otherwise been able to know about others that we work with and work for. So it's been a great year.
Really good point how different building relationships has been in this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's been, for a challenge to people who have been great at developing relationships through the traditional channels, certainly through the virtual portal. It's not the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
good points. We're going to also welcome Sharon Clinton here. Hi, Sharon.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
I'm good. Sharon is the Deputy Executive Director of the City of Philadelphia and Changemaker, and she was here in April for improving access to resources and opportunity.
So listen, I think if I had to answer that question specifically, I think it's more along the lines of what hasn't changed. Perspectives around work, the conscious leadership and definitions of what that can look like or should look like is now different. I think that the challenge and the charge that we all need to have is how do we shape that, continue to shape that information, broadly and nationwide? How do we utilize platforms like we have today to ensure that the efforts of leaders, the efforts of even layman staff are being recognized and a shared voice for change is continuing to happen? There is too much that has been afforded by way of what I like to call chaotic crisis and change, that really has also offered a gem to the world. We were forced to slow down, reflect, and take perspective, to challenge ourselves, with the way in which we view the work, and move away from some of those preferences, um, to change the way that we have viewed ourselves, view our staff, the way in which we work, the way in which we collaborate. And really, I think probably lastly is just how do we challenge the shared voice of authenticity, the experience of that. I'm not a representative for all Black people. I'm not a representative for all leaders. Whatever that needs to look like, we have to continue to carry the torch that all are welcome at the table and all voices are valued. So for me, everything has changed.
Yes, I agree. That all of that. So Sharon, let me just ask you one more question before you mute. Oh, you already muted. I just want to know what can the C3 community do to move this forward in the next year?
I mean, continued exposure. LinkedIn in itself is a wonderful platform that allows for the searching out or the sharing of what we're finding out. I think, like most social platforms, people can often be either dissuaded or believe that there's no opportunity if there's no likes. I probably get more DMs or text messaging than I've ever received a like, on any messaging that I've ever posted. And so I think doing what you actually are, looking for the leaders that can help you create change, looking for those voices and bringing them into the storehouse, as my grandmother, would have said back in the day, that's what you do. Elevating voices that might not have an opportunity to be shared, but certainly um, are worthy into the cause that you guys have.
Well, we empower all of you to also bring these people to the table, bring these people in the C3 community, these voices that want elevation. That is exactly what we're here to do. Thank you, Sharon. Nick, how are you?
How are you?
I'm good. So Nicholas Dillon is speaker and best-selling author, and he was here with us in March for Leading with Vulnerability. So Nicholas, what has the last year been like for you, and what do you see moving forward?
Yes, thank you so much for for having me and just for all of these experts on the line that are joining us here. Hi and welcome. Interestingly, it was a year of true continued vulnerability all the way up to and including I left my home state of 50 years and moved to a whole new state. And now I'm in the state of Texas. So that was huge change for me and very vulnerable right now. So just being able to, I think this year really called for us to, and I'll echo what Sharon indicated, is that just believing beyond what's comfortable and being willing to know that you not only have a voice, but being willing to cross that bridge and be expressive with it. What we've also seen is a higher level of awareness and self-managing. Leaders have been forced to move beyond just checking in for performance, but just checking in on the whole person, and making that very intentional about supporting us, not only as in corporate America, but just us from an entrepreneur standpoint, checking on each other. I like what Lawrence indicated when you all started out in your conversation about collaboration. We're doing that in a much bigger way, in a much expansive way. I had an opportunity to do several things internationally last year. The beautiful thing that I've always told individuals about times of crisis is, guess what? Last year, new businesses were started, millionaires were made. all in a space of civil unrest, a health crisis, and all those things that happened around us. And so, interestingly, the year of 2020 for me was a higher revenue year than the previous year. So things continue to happen and pivot. We continue to grow. And so for me, really continued believing and trusting that in vulnerability, a lot of great things can happen. We just need to not forget that we can still be innovative. We can still be creative. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, I hope that many of us utilize this time to grow, which I heard you all mention, both personally and professionally, so that we are prepared to show up our highest and best selves as we move forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm glad we're all together here. And yeah, it's harder now. It feels like, for me anyway, to find that time for reflection. Everything seems to have picked up like 10 speed. But since we had that, we were forced to, as Sharon saying, we were kind of, everything slowed down. We had to take a look at ourselves. And now it's a matter of us owning that we have to make that a habit. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Carl is here. Hello, Carl. How are you?
Hello, guys. How's everybody? Pray that all is well. Today it is super storming in the great state of New Jersey, and I just happy to be here among each and every one of you. I just count it an honor and a privilege that Karen invited me to this platform, and I am, like Nick, I have preached, lived, taught, trained vulnerability in leadership. It is my foundation. I started on LinkedIn saying that in 2008. I was not a popular guy, but I went in on it with a directive when the pandemic came. I reprioritized a lot of things, went through a lot of death, COVID my own self, into the near death of hospitals. And I had a repurposing of what my purpose was. And in the essence of that, I wanted to change the narrative. I'm also completing, which was very hard, my first year of law school, doing the pandemic, being sick, deaths in the family. Hey, God gave it to me. I can handle it. That's how I look at every situation. But I'm encouraged by the changes. Sharon hit it on the head, and it's something that I have called my cause, and that is to not let things go back to where they were. And if anyone comes across my path or in my pattern, it's definitely got to be a conversation to where we get out of sitting at the table, but we're leaving the table and causing action. And it's been a lot of times, and I'm only 54 and age-wise, but I've been privy to a lot of people having conversations at the table. And once we have left the table, once the marches have ceased, once the platforms have diminished, people forget what we were doing. So it is my personal cause, and I'll continue on even with the at-risk youth that I mentor in New Jersey to see that we continue to stand. Let's move forward. This is not a necessary black and white issue. This is a humanity issue. This is one where we have to appreciate each and every one of us, what we bring to the table, how we enhance each other, the dynamics that all of our cultures bring together really has continuously been lost, especially with me not being a political pundit, but the landscape of what our politics have taught us over the past 4 years, the dynamic of divide of which we came across. We've got to come back to the table. And I think the pandemic, and I am just a great spiritual guy, I think the pandemic was God's way of saying, you guys got to get back to the drawing board. I'm going to shut everything down. You're not going to games. You're not going to dinners. You're not going to parties. You're not even going to church. I'm going to shut it all down, and I'm going to have you in a place of where you reevaluate your life, your lifestyle, your family style, the relationships that you built. And I'm with Nick. I have just got off the phone a little bit this morning in collaboration with a lady with a corporation in Brussels. Have never been. Don't know, can't tell you. I'm not a geography whiz, but I do know that the operations of what we've been doing are opening, and we're coming to a plateau where a lot of these things that have been are starting to disintegrate, and we got to keep pushing the wall forward. I appreciate you guys for having me on, and I appreciate everything that you're continuing to do, Lawrence. And Lawrence, thank you. I want to give you a shout out for coming to my show this morning. I appreciate you, brother. I also have 2 live shows and a podcast, so if anyone wants to get on to collaborate with anything concerning any purpose or any topic that you want to discuss, please feel free to do so. Thank you so
I
much.
love that invitation to co-creation there, Carl. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that you're here to stand or sit at the table. I'm so glad you're still here. Thanks for sharing your thoughts about that. And it really did feel like divine intervention, the pandemic. And that's part of what birthed this, because I was like, this can't be for nothing. We have to do something with what's happening here and take it and move it forward. So I want to give Al Sullivan some time. How are you, Al? He was here for assessments in November. He's the founder and CEO of Inspirus Consulting. Al, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Karen, for the invitation, and also to my colleague, Lawrence, as well. Both of you guys for all that you're doing, and for all the other panelists as well, all the insights and time and contributions that we're all making. Yeah, so I thought about this right prior to coming to today's live event, and really there's really three things that come up for me, right, in terms of the impact of the pandemic, 2020, what did we go through, what did we learn, where we are now. Really, so the first thing that comes up for me is possibilities, right? The pandemic showed us what's possible. Instead of looking at, oh, I can't do this anymore, oh, I can't do that anymore. Well, if we want to eat, if we want to continue to do business, if we want to stay alive and continue to thrive, we all had to take a deep look in the mirror at ourselves, at our businesses, at our processes, at the world.
Uh-oh. Al, we stopped being able to hear you. I don't know what happened.
Oh, can you hear me now? Sorry.
We can hear you now, yeah.
Okay, yeah. We had to ask ourselves, what's possible? And instead of saying what I can't do, I got to ask myself what's possible. Like what's been mentioning, I think it was Nick mentioned that, 2020 was a banner year. I've been in business since 2008. And I got to tell you, 2020 was my best year on record, right? Because I had to ask myself, what's possible? And let me get down to getting it done. Companies had to kind of go virtual like in a weekend. And instead of bickering and asking, well, how do we do this? They got to what's possible? How do we do this? Right. So the possibility. The second thing that comes up for me is this notion of intersectionality, meaning that I can't do it all by myself. I need help. Right. Who are the data analysts? Who are the diversity people? Who are the coaching people? Who are the process improvement people? Let's bring these intersections together and create something that none of us could have created on our own. So this notion of bringing together different backgrounds, different disciplines, different ways of doing things, that whole notion of intersectionality, which is huge in the work that I do in diversity, that became front and center, right?
It was even the pharmaceutical companies had to work together to get us the vaccine. Yeah.
The vaccine, intersectionality, right? Let's stop fighting. Let's stop bickering. Let's stop competing. Let's start working together to create something that none of us could have done on our own. The third thing is the notion of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Guess what? It's here to stay.
Yeah.
It ain't going anywhere. And all of my clients were like doing listening sessions. How do we do unconscious bias? How do we do inclusive leadership? How do we do this? How do we do that? How do we start an employee resource group? Right? Everything that we pick up and read now today tells us that the United States and the world is becoming more and more diverse. And by 2050 and beyond, there won't be any one racial majority. It's going to be more diverse. So as companies and leaders are starting to ask themselves, what do we do? How do we survive? How do we change? How do we get ready for that? How do we tap into these diverse employees, especially if we're 90% whatever right now, right? And so that's the other thing that people are realizing, that diversity is here to stay, and I need to get on board with it or be left behind. And so the last thing I'll say, out of those top three things, which is what are the possibilities? How do we get more intersectional, and how do we tap into and be real and authentic around DEI? The thing that I'll say is what 2020 has taught us is sort of like 9/11, right? After that huge sort of shock to the system, we asked ourselves, wow, what do we need to do differently going forward forever? Airport travel has changed forever. And I think the pandemic has caused us to change some things forever. And one of the things is what we're doing now, virtual. Instead of getting on the plane, going somewhere, hey, let's plug into Zoom. Let's plug into Microsoft Teams. Let's ask ourselves, how do we do things differently now? and so I think some of this virtual stuff is going to be here to stay as well. So I'll stop
Agreed.
talking, but that's what came.
Even though I want to go to Atlanta, I travel there all the time, Lauren.
Hey, let's get it in. Y'all bet. And Geraldine's here. You better not come through this city and not talk.
I'm due. My brother's down there.
Yeah, y'all better not come through.
Please.
Yeah.
Let's
All right,
make it
y'all.
happen.
So thank y'all so much for being here. And again, I put the call in a private chat. If y'all want to be speakers second half of the year, we got some amazing topics coming. Let us know. Send us direct messages, and we'll get you back on the show for a longer conversation. So I'm with it. So thank y'all so much. First shift, folks.
So grateful to you.
Drop off.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. All right, we got
a bunch coming in.
Got a new shift of folks coming in. Got people being kicked out because they can't get in, but because they weren't here earlier. So second shift. What's going on, dynamic speakers?
Hi.
What is going on?
Hi.
All right.
It is great to see you all.
All right. Oh, hello. It's so great to see you all. All right. So I'm going to go clockwise again and introduce our panelists from the past and our panelists today. And we're going to talk about what happened this year. What do you see moving forward? So we'll start with Kelly Robinson. And Kelly and I were coworkers in the past, and she is the CEO and talent acquisition and recruiting consulting firm Pana Knows. And her topic was curtailing COVID turnover. And that was August. We talked about that. So, how was your year? I think you've had explosive growth, looks like.
Explosive. And so we talked a lot about retention, right? How to make sure we're finding the right people. I was on with Tawana, who was awesome. And, bringing in the right people, but then also keeping them. And how do we do that? And that has completely changed. And people weren't doing it well before. And now all of a sudden it's remote. Like, it's crazy. I'm lucky because my company's always been remote. That's just how I've always worked. But we have made so many shifts, even at my company, to make sure that we're engaging with people. One thing that we do that's like, I think it's awesome for anyone that works remote is we do office hours every day from 9 to 9:30. And so it's totally optional, but everyone in the company they're all over the globe and they all have a Zoom, and I jump on every day, and it's like the kitchen. It's like, come make your coffee in the kitchen, or come, like you would do if you were to see people in an office. So we're loving it. And the rule is like no work talk unless you really, 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 really need something. But it's like the water cooler, right? It's like you're having hey, how was your weekend? How was your night? We hold each other accountable for like exercising. Some of us exercise during that time. Like people are doing walks. I walk on my treadmill a lot, or go outside. So that's been good because it keeps everyone connected. I've also, which I've always done, but we do like one-on-ones with people every week, and it's only 15 or 20 minutes. But I always end with, how are you feeling? It's about the person too. It's not just the job. Like, I try to focus on them. How are you feeling? How do you feel about your job? Do you feel like you're challenged? Do you feel like you're being rewarded? Do you feel like you're meeting your goals? So we do a lot of that. What can I do to support you? How can I help you? It's a different conversation on Zoom. So
yeah,
I try to bring that, as much as I can. And the other thing we do is we call each other on Zoom all the time.
Yeah, instead of just like picking up the phone or texting, it's a Zoom. Interesting.
Always.
Wow.
Everyone has Zoom accounts. And so it's like, it's either free, it's like, whoo, and that's how we're talking now. So that we can get, even if we're in, sweats, or our business mullet, I call it. You guys know the business mullet, right?
Yep.
Business up front and party on the bottom. So my kid says it. It's pretty funny, but things like that. So I just think since we spoke, so much has changed because people have shifted even more.
Yeah.
And we spoke, I think, in like August. So people had already started to really make changes, and there were a lot of great changes. But since then, it's shifted even more drastically.
Wow.
So my perspective is really from the remote, continuing to be remote. But now people are back to the office. I'm always curious, are people still doing a lot of Zoom stuff? Are they, what is networking going to be like? You know, that's fascinating to me. We don't really know yet.
Yeah, we're still planning our ConCon event, which is the Consciousness Conference that we're going to have in November. That will be virtual this year, but we're hoping next year that's going to be a conference, maybe in Atlanta. Who knows? Right, Lawrence? Who knows? We don't know where next year will be, but we know we're having it this year online. So we look forward to seeing a bunch of you there too. Thanks, Kelly. Lindsay's here too. Lindsay was just actually our guest in June. She's a geotechnical project manager, and she was talking about, and she suggested this topic, using active versus passive voice. And it was such a great, insightful conversation talking about small tweaks. And I know that, you know, it hasn't been a year since you were here. It was just a month since you were here. But, you know, tell us a little bit about the transformation that you've noticed this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So this can absolutely be related back to COVID, because this was initiated during that transition of working from home. We're writing so many more emails. It was really an opportunity to take a look at your speech patterns. So that's the first thing I recommend. If you're looking to switch between that active and passive voice and you're seeing patterns that you need to change, look at your emails. That was the first place I looked during COVID, is because if I'm writing challenging emails or if I'm giving direction in an email, I'm going to read that over and I'm going to make sure that I am using that active voice. It allows you to bring back to your ownership of that. And as a conscious leader, we need to make sure that we're holding on to that ownership of what we're doing and what we're asking people to do. So absolutely, I work in progress, try to make changes every single day, whether it's through email or through conversations and meetings. It's been a really good transition.
It is. That's an interesting opportunity when everything's virtual and you're either forced to meet virtually through Zoom or to communicate through email. That's a chance for you to really be thoughtful about the words that you choose. Good points, Lindsay. Thanks for being here. We're going to go to Christopher. Christopher, how are you? He's a social impact consultant, professor, and fellow. He was talking about conscious leadership tools actually last June. So we started to do these kind of weekly when we first started talking in June. So it's been like a year and a month. But Christopher was one of our first panelists, and I know that a lot has changed for him, and I'm sure he's noticed a lot of change around him in the last year too.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that there's, as my friend said, you know, the world toppled over. You can't go back to where it was before. So you're trying to pick up the pieces. And I think when you try to pick up the pieces, you're trying to, this natural instinct is to make it like it was before. And I think after, you know, I think as we start transitioning back, and, you know, I'm starting to read articles about people not going back to work, or people that moved out to Iowa and not coming back, or people that are moved from New York and moved to upstate Maine and not coming back. I think that in this transition, and we think about being conscious leaders, I think that that is something that we have to acknowledge, is that some of the things that we were doing, you know, during COVID and the things that we want to do after COVID they're not going to match up anymore. You have that one moment in time where you can be conscious of, like, all right, do I want to go back to this? Do I want to go back to this? Do I want to give up my family? Do I want to go back to working 60 hours a week? And people are saying no, and like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this. And it's interesting because I think in some ways we all can agree that if you have the option of, you know, of not doing anymore, you have to, you're not going to say, no, I want a better life. I want a better way. Even if I do have to sacrifice money, if I do have to sacrifice, you know, comfortability, if I do
boundaries,
I want an easier life.
Anybody get better at boundaries in 2020? I got better at boundaries in 2020.
And I think if it wasn't for, I think I told somebody, if it wasn't for this COVID, I wouldn't think we had this moment in time where it's not about an individual doing that. It's about us doing it as a world and a society, saying, you know, everyone around the world all at once had to stop and said, is this the way, you know, we want to live? You know, I think the person before I came on was talking about, diversity, equity, inclusion. And so when we said, are we really being inclusive as we want to? Are we in our health, in our economics, in our politics, in our society? And the answer is no. It's like, then how can we become this who we want to be? And I think that when we talk about leadership and we talk about going forward, I think that is the biggest thing, the biggest hurdle that we have to find out, is that as we start rebuilding things, like, who do we want to be? We don't want to go back the way we were before, and we have to build on the things of the past, but we can build them better, and we can become better.
A lot of things we can't ignore anymore.
Yeah, and I think that is going to be the key. And when we talked in June, we kind of went off subject. We started talking about things outside of conscious leadership. But I think those things that we talked about back then all feed back into who we are as human beings, about becoming better, about becoming more professional.
They're intersectional, as we were talking about.
Exactly, and they talk of it all, as my old professor used to say. But if you don't see as we look and start building things, I think we're starting to see the connectedness of it more. Conscious leadership and conscious followers are just as important as thinking about those things separately.
That is an awareness.
Things together. So
that's one of the tenets I've included in conscious leadership is the awareness of the connectedness of everything. Yeah. Thanks, Christopher. We'll have to catch up soon. Maybe take a hike when it's not storming outside. Jay, how are you?
Hey, Karen, I'm well. Thank you for having me.
And Jay, again, was just a recent guest of ours. He was also with Lindsay on our Using Active versus Passive Voice last month. So again, we don't have a whole year of you being in the C3 community to review, but tell us about the year before, what you noticed and what you see going forward.
Good question. So I think one of the things I noticed, so Christopher talked about it, right? People not necessarily wanting to go back to careers that they had previously. And I think I would even expound on that. So what I've seen from some of my colleagues is that they're ironically digging into their voice, right? So finding where their gifting lies and being able to take that. And sometimes when you're forced by hook or by crook to have to look a little bit deeper and say, okay, what can I really do? Right. I've been laid off, or I'm in a position where my hours have been cut back drastically. What are some things that I can really do that I always wanted to do? Right. I know some folks that have started hair care lines. I know some people that have started tech businesses, doing lots of different things. So I think people really finding their voice, right? I know that's not necessarily passive versus active voice, which is what I discussed, but people really finding their inner voice and what makes them happy and want to get up in the morning. So that's the biggest thing that I've seen that's changed, I think, really from probably about a year ago. I think as an entrepreneur, although I'm a COO, I'm an entrepreneur as well. We always talk about that, right? People finding their passion or their love or their gift or whatever that is. But I think now when people are kind of forced out of the nest, right? Like the eaglet that mom kicks out of the nest, now you got to figure out how to fly. So it's just been a transition, I guess, I think, for the better in a lot of cases. Yeah. And I think we have a changing environment and economy because of it.
I think that a lot of people were like, oh, this is on my to-do list maybe someday. And then they're like, well, wait, we could all be, who knows what tomorrow is going to bring now, right? So get it done today. Absolutely. Good point, Jay. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And Julia is here. I'm so glad she is. And she is a performance coach for mission-driven individuals. And she was here actually a year ago talking about authentic connection, right? It's been a year. So it's been a full year. Yes. How's your year been, Julia?
I mean, the year has really flown by. When you said it's been a year, I totally was like, oh, yeah. But when we first spoke, we were talking about relationships in the workplace. And ultimately, when we look at the topic of people and culture and we realize how it's become a priority, and not just lip service, but really a priority, because people are realizing how much of a role connection plays in the workplace. When we think about connection to self, connection to team, connection to world, when people don't have an office to go into and they don't have the people around them every day, they start to really consider what is their connection to the company. And that's where culture plays a huge role. So I definitely feel like previous leaders who are very much growth oriented and care so much every month about hitting the goals, they actually are seeing the direct correlation between the value of connection in the day-to-day and their growth goals. So I definitely do believe that as we move forward in the upcoming year, we start to get more creative around what personalization looks like, and moving deeper into the DEI conversation and realizing that we each have unique goals, unique gifts. And when we bring our unique purpose to the table, what ends up happening is we can see the interconnectivity amongst individuals, and that's what creates community. So I really am passionate about harnessing the power of people and culture to really achieve great goals. And I feel like the social impact piece that all of us are really passionate about happens when people are really united in their shared mission. So I'm really excited to just meet all of these faces today and glad to be here.
I'm glad you could be here, Julia. Thanks for joining us. And I think that's, well, Kelly gave a great example. You know, if a company is relying on face-to-face, physical, you know, body-to-body type of interaction, and then that's gone, you have to redefine how you build that community. And I think Kelly's done a great job. Good job, Kelly. Thank you guys for joining us. I so appreciate you guys being here, and I hope to see you again as panelists and guests and at our Con event.
Exactly. Thank y'all so much. All right. Shift 2 done in the books.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Bring it in.
This is so fun to see new faces pop up on the screen. It was here. It's like, yay. Oh, hey, everybody. All right. Hi. We're going to go again clockwise. So we're going to start with Dave Garesso. And Dave is a leadership and purpose development coach. He was over a year ago. So we didn't even have a topic. I think we just kind of hopped on and just started talking because there was so much to process, right? So we talked to you very fresh in the processing of everything. How you've probably in this year processed quite a bit by now. What have you noticed, Dave?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because I was going back, looking at my notes, like what did we talk about last night? That was so long ago. But, just kind of listening in, I kind of picked up, caught on to what we're talking about here. Really what's changed, right? And so I actually did take a couple of notes on things that I've seen change. And so one of the things is different ways of working together, right? And one of the things I noticed specifically in that is the need to be more intentional about making connections with other people. Earlier, when you were face to face with people and around people all the time, it was easy just to get up, take a walk around, establish a connection and catch up on something. Now everything's virtual for the most part. So you have to go out of your way to plan an actual connection with somebody on a virtual call or even doing things like this. So intentionality became, I think, even more important. And I think it'll continue to be that way going forward. Another thing that I thought about was we kind of got a better view on what's more important in our lives, right? Like, because, and the thing that goes along with that I wrote down here too, is we realize where there is waste.
Yes.
Frankly, I used to spend 2-3 hours a day in the car, just going back and forth. Right. And now, so there's a plus and a minus to that too, right? The plus side of it was I actually could be more intentional about calling and connecting with somebody while I was doing that. Now I lost that. But at the same time, now I have more time at home with my family and I'm able to start the day with them after a day's work. Whereas before I was killing a lot of hours just sitting in the car.
Yeah.
Right? So I kind of see plus and minus to that.
And you can be intentional then to make sure somehow that fits in the life another way. Yeah,
absolutely. And just thinking about what are the somebody brought up dreams and purpose, and actually having time to sit and think about what do you want that to look like, and even because of sort of being home more often, being able to process and heal from some of the stuff that's holding you back, and coming into the realization that hey, there are opportunities that I've been missing, maybe because I was going and not really focusing on what's important. And so now that I've had that opportunity, I feel like I've been able to grow as a person so that I can pursue some of the things that I've always wanted to pursue. And then, the last thing, I was going to say is, conscious leadership, right? When we talk about that topic, it's really all about taking responsibility for your own life, your own actions, your own words, your own thoughts. And so what better opportunity to do that than now, right? We see it right in front of our face. This is what's important. This is where we're wasting. We have this opportunity to make a change. So the one, encouragement that I would offer anyone watching is like, take the opportunity to actually make that change, right? Take responsibility for your life. Take the risks necessary to be able to do that, because you may not see an opportunity like this for a while. So those are some of my thoughts.
I love that reflection, Dave. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing that with us. And Amy's here, and I haven't seen Amy virtually or otherwise for a while. So, and Amy is an innovation readiness expert, and she's currently helping the city of Eugene, Oregon deal with oppressive heat. And she was our speaker in July, so a full year again on Authentic Connection. I know this year has been full of changes and growth for you. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's been a lot. So for those of you who obviously have never met before, hi. As an introvert, I was mostly thriving for a pretty long time. It took a while for me to get on the downhill curve of that. But I work for the municipality here, and I was pulled into the emergency operations center to respond to COVID. And so it was really high stress, but this trauma bonding environment, but we can't get close to each other. And actually some of my good friends were there, and not being able to touch or hug them when we were all in such high stress was just a little bit torturous. These are my favorite people, and I can't engage with them in the same way I want to. And so then we were kind of charged with recovering the city from the pandemic, which, as you all know, is easily done and totally a path forward for. So it's just been a lot. What I've really realized about connection pieces were the people that I connect with, I still do, right? All of my close friends and all that kind of stuff, that really didn't take much of a hit. It's the next level after that, where my colleagues that I see in the hall and we catch up really quick, or I haven't seen them in a little bit, and those pieces where they're just missing. And I actually noticed a difference in my workload, because I didn't realize how many side projects I just end up with because we ran into each other in the hall and I was like, oh yeah, I can do that, I can do this or whatever. I joke that I Frankenstein projects together, where I'm I know you can do graphic design, could you help me for an hour with this? And we all come together, but I'm another piece of other people's, and so my workload is actually I noticed it was a lot different. And then I guess my final piece that I've really recognized or realized was, since there's fewer connections, I'm actually a lot more authentic and vulnerable inside the ones that I'm making. And so I'm just a little bit done telling you I'm fine and things are going great, and it's hard being at home, but it's fine. It's not fine. It sucks some days. And so just being really upfront about that, because it's really important to me that, people kind of think I'm together and you got your stuff handled. It's no, I don't. It's a mess back here. And so to just be transparent and normalize that for other people, yeah, I'm struggling. I had to take a week off because I cannot do this right now. And just being upfront about that, and just kind of opening the door for other people to be their own selves as they are in that moment as well, and doing that first, I guess.
Yes, and along the lines of even what David was saying about the waste, the toxicity sometimes, and the people that I've noticed, these events have opened up so much awareness in me. And one thing that I've definitely noticed is my energy. We talked about energy leadership, but even how I am around certain people. And if I have noticed that I don't feel like I can be my authentic self with people, I spend a lot less time with them. That was something that I noticed and changed about it. And thank you for bringing that up. Absolutely. Being able to just be you know what, it's okay to just say things aren't great. In fact, they're really not great. Thanks for sharing, Amy. I appreciate you being here.
Thank
and
you.
Kimberly was just May. We talked about energy leadership. So I was just mentioning that. She is a multi-certified coach, consultant, and environmental advocate. So I know you personally, your certification was more recently, so it was in that year spectrum, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, what I find, I'm going to kind of wrap up what David and Amy were saying, because what you guys are talking about really resonates with me as well. And one of the things that I feel has been huge for me this year. So I'm kind of going to put it in the COVID spectrum as well, and as opposed to the last 2 months, because that was really quick. But I think what I what I started doing and have really deepened is around following my intuition. And I feel like you just nailed that, Karen, when you mentioned that if you get a feeling around someone or something that you would, like, for example, gossip, that you're like, I really just don't want to be engaged in this anymore. You listen to that inner voice and step back. And that, I think COVID has really given us this opportunity with the time and the space that we've all had to like really deepen into listening and quieting to and listening to that inner voice. So that's something that I've really, I would say I'm going to be pulling that into the work that I do more and more all the time now, and also encouraging, empowering others to really take that space to engage in that way as well. The other thing is around connections. Amy, you were just talking about like deepening those connections. I've seen that as well. There's a lot of folks that have actually in my life kind of faded away in the last year and a half. But the folks that are still there, and some faded for a bit, and then there was kind of like a resurgence, and those relationships are so much deeper and stronger now. And I feel like I'm more comfortable now with really strengthening, having the quality over the quantity, not trying to like push so much to be so out there and so social or so much marketing, more of like the quality clients, relationships, friends, family members, whatever those quality relationships I have, that's where I'm putting my focus and deepening that. And then that goes into the work as well. So that's really been my experience over the last year, is just deepening my relationship with all of it, with myself, with my friends, my family members, my clients, and then the earth as well, and how we're all changing and consciousness is rising here on the earth. I think we all feel that. Obviously, you guys have brought us all together, and that's rising, and it's really palpable right now. I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and they were talking about how we as humans here now on this earth, we're all healers. So whether we identify as that or not, we are healing in every relationship that we're in every action that we take throughout our lives. Even the things that are so challenging, the places and the people and the ways that we've been hurt, those are there to actually offer us an opportunity for healing. So
that's a really great focus for the next year. Look for the opportunities to heal.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's exciting.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I love how each of these groups, there's like a theme and everybody seems to be connected on it. Even if they've pre-prepared their notes, it's just the synergy is amazing to me. I love it. Thank you guys so much for sharing.
Thank y'all so much. And if y'all
with me.
desire to be on the show for next season and all the rest of it, and come to ConCon, and all the rest of that, let us know, because we love, it's the Conscious Co-op. We want to bring faces back. There's not just a one and done. So that's why we're reviving this and in the year in review. So thank y'all so much for lending your time, your talent, and the gift of yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank y'all. See y'all later.
Good to see y'all.
We got the next crew coming in.
And I know, Rebecca, if you're on and you're listening, we still have you on in this group.
Yep.
I know you're having some technical problems, but there you are. Rebecca's here. Yay. All right.
Okay, let's see. Adding everybody to the stream right now. So we got D.
Oh, I'm excited to see this last group, but I'm also sad it's our last group. This is so great.
Right?
We need to make these longer next time.
We do need to make these longer. We figured it out, y'all. We need to make these longer. All right. So this is the last crew closing us out. I can't believe it.
I know.
Wow.
Rebecca, if you're able to be on camera, we'll start with you. Otherwise, I'll
Yep, I'm trying. My camera is not showing, so I'm switching cameras.
Okay, no worries.
Right.
We'll give you a second then, and we'll start with D. And I know Lawrence was filling me in, D, about a little bit of a change and excitement that you've had more recently. And you were the only panelist we had actually twice. We had you for authentic leadership in February, and then also improving access and resources to opportunity. Or improving access to resources and opportunity, rather. So, Dee, tell us about your year. What have you noticed?
It's just been a time of a lot of transition, like just a lot of change and a lot of kind of fulfillment of long-term goals and, you know, some what seemed to be setbacks, but then also making the choice to really not burn bridges, but walk away from bridges, like leave certain things behind, right? I liked what was her name? She was saying in the last session about relationships ending and moving forward with new relationships. So that was definitely something that my year was about. Being able to get involved in the purpose-driven work and being able to be involved in the conversations that I most want to be a part of.
Yeah. So you talked about long-term dreams fulfilled. I want to share with us.
So the most recent thing was that I got my CPTD certification, my Certified Professional in Talent Development. I was very excited about that because I'd actually planned on pursuing that way back in 2010, 2011. But then I went around, I got my PMP and my PHR first because I was in the military at the time and I was trying to kind of go for the most bang for the buck. So getting that CPTD was something that was really important to me, and I just earned that a couple of weeks ago. So very excited about that. I was also able to transition out of the DoD industry, and I'm now working in academia, which is super exciting for me. And it's kind of ties in with access to opportunities and being able to have those conversations about education. And like, I'm already 6 courses into a 7 course certificate program for Washington State University's Community and Equity Certificate Program. So, and in my role in learning and organizational development, I get to be a part of developing all the supervisory courses and all the developing leaders courses. And so we're revamping that and having those conversations. So just being able to be involved in the kind of work that really matters to me.
Yay, you're creating and co-creating
Yes.
a more conscious leadership landscape. Thank you. I'm so glad. Congratulations on all of that. That's an amazing year. Go
Thank
Jay. All right, Tawana. You are a corporate compliance project consultant. We had you in August for curtailing COVID turnover. And we had Kelly in 2 sessions ago. She was on with you. So tell us about your year.
Oh, this year the theme has been shedding to create room for the abundance, right? And that means something different for everybody, right? Some people just need more time. Some people are like, I got too much time. I need to do something, right? Some people need more money. Some people are like, if I had all the money in the world, it wouldn't mean a thing, right? And so it's like, what do I need to shed? And what am I finding people around me, professionals around me, entrepreneurs around me, mothers around me, right? Whatever that hat, because we're so multifaceted, what does it look like? Excuse me. And the common theme has been shedding, doing less, right? Doing less so that you can truly activate the more of what you have. Spending less time trying to strengthen the weaknesses so that you can actually do more of what already is good for you to do, is already comes naturally good for you to do, right? Just really amplifying, and then people tapping into creative ways, if you will, to do business, right? Giving themselves permission to make a plan, but that a plan is a roadmap, not a guarantee, right? There's more than one way to get to the destination that you're pursuing. Also finding that there's constant advocacy in all of that with gaps, right? Whether it's wage, whether it's race, whether it's gender, whether it's, preference, all your isms, right? Filling those gaps. The Great Resignation, there's conversation around that because businesses are talking about going back, and people are like, to heck with you, right?
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that. And so we're going to have a huge opportunity where people are either going to be pursuing their own professional opportunities, right? Creating them with the expertise that they have, are companies who truly are people focused, valuing people, putting the good on that human capital and not separating it from the financial capital. They're going to be thriving and they're going to have a huge talent pool, right? Mm-hmm. And then understanding that racks and things, right? Money isn't always the answer. They don't ease our pain. Mm-hmm. So mission-driven incentives mm-hmm. are going to be big in business all around. I don't care if you're self-employed or if you are employed traditionally or you're employing people. It's not just about the money. And then leaning into creative and remote recruitment strategies mm-hmm. is what this theme has absolutely amplified. It's not that remote work was new before the pandemic, right? It became new at the magnitude in which we all had to do it simultaneously. So this year has been about shedding to make room for the abundance.
I'm seeing a whole bunch of new potential topics emerge from this. And I think that mission-based business is something we should probably put in a poll and see if other people agree. But that stands out to me as something we should dedicate one of these events to. So, Tawana, thanks so much for sharing. Great insights. And Gabriella is here. Gabriella is a CIQ certified conversational alchemist. She came here for our conversational intelligence event in October. Gabriella, how's your year been?
It's thank you for having me, and I hope you can hear me well. It's been a very good year, and listening to all of you saying words and phrases. For me, the word or what happened was the word anti-fragility. I was tired of the resilience. I think we talked a little bit about anti-fragility. Mm-hmm. And the resilience word, I don't like the word resilience. So there's a whole theory about what is anti-fragility, which is to become in love with the uncertainty. And that's what we have to do at these times, right? So it has been about loving the uncertainty. I'm used to travel 6 months a year, and I'm stuck in Canada for a year and a half almost. No, I went away, but I've been stuck here, learning to love Zoom, to love the not human touch, the not visibility, the not voice, and trying to teach my clients how important it is to have these crucial conversations, how to build trust, even if we cannot touch each other or see each other, because lots of my clients don't want to turn their cameras on. Mm-hmm. So it's been about that. And also, I think it's been about simplicity. I think during COVID, we turned ourselves into more simple people. We didn't need to go shopping. We didn't need to go to the movies to be occupied. But it was a time of reflection, a time of try to find inner peace, which I think for some people was really difficult, and to trust the process. A lot of good things came out of this. I became certified on something that I would have never thought I would be certified on. It's now I'm a trauma sensitive coach.
Wow.
And I started trying to connect conversational intelligence with equity, diversity, and inclusivity. And suddenly the social justice and everything came up, and another certification. So more human. I think we need to be more human at this time, and learning how to speak to people, how to talk to ourselves is crucial to be anti-fragile at this time in our lives.
Would you equate anti-fragile with vulnerability or no?
No, it's completely different. What you try to equate it is to resilience. And what is resilience? I have a pine tree here. I live in Toronto. So that poor tree has been today is almost 40 degrees centigrade. Mm-hmm. And that tree also lives in minus 40 centigrade.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Another
it learns to throw their leaf in a bit.
Got it. Okay. I'm sorry? Thank you for that clarification. Another great group of potential topics for the next year ahead. Thank you so much, Gabriella.
You're welcome.
And Curtis, we're going to go to you now. So you joined us for Conscious Leadership Tools, and that was 13 months ago, so just over a year. I am really curious to know how your year has been.
It has been extremely interesting, to say the least. I think as many people on here have already discussed, there's a lot of different things that are changing, but they're not changing in the sense that we normally look at change. Usually when we think of change, it's because of new inventions and new technology and all these different things that are coming in that, most people have no real understanding behind. But the reality is that for a lot of organizations, for a lot of people, it was more about the processes than it was just the actual technology. Organizations did have to deal with, but more so to small, medium-sized organizations when it came to technology integrations. But I don't think that was as much of a hurdle as it was actually just kind of getting used to that remote feel, getting used to what it's like to have to manage a team when you don't have direct physical oversight of that team, and understanding how do I navigate communication, how do I navigate everything that has to do with it. But one of the big things that came up this past year, is understanding what leadership actually is, what it entails, how does it grow, how does it evolve, because when you get into a remote environment, you start to see a lot of things that you don't see when it's only one person who serves as the mouthpiece for a department, a division, or a unit. You start to see some of these other areas where they thought leadership might have been more strong. It's not, and there's actually a thing, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I've been having some conversations with leaders right now in discussing insecure leadership, because insecurity with a lot of leaders means that what they're doing is very self-absorbed. It's about their recognition. It's about their ability to be able to get credit. They need the people so that they can get the approval that they're looking for. John Maxwell, that's who it was. And John Maxwell does an amazing job of talking about these particular topics around blind spots for leaders. And I think that this pandemic opened up a lot of that discussion about blind spots, because as much as leadership doesn't want to talk about it, the reality is that they exist.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's why you have professional athletes that have coaches that are out there every single night during every single practice that are watching.
Yeah.
Because every leader, every professional, every person that's coming up that ladder, they're all going to be at times hyper-focused in specific areas, especially if they're given an individual leadership development plan that says, hey, we think you kind of suck in these areas and we want you to improve. They're going to get really hyper-focused on trying to improve those areas. And so they're going to miss some things that are on the peripherals. And so that's what a lot of my year's been around, is just drawing attention to the peripherals and understanding how to navigate those particular waters, especially when a lot of leaders aren't necessarily used to talking about that and addressing those particular issues.
And we're all human, and we're all going to have them, and none of us are above that, and that is why we all have to hold each other accountable and stay in communities like this so that we can continue to identify those blind spots. Good point, Curtis. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Rebecca, I know you haven't gotten your camera to work yet, but still hop on. Please tell us about your year.
My year has been amazing, as some of you have mentioned, and I've been on the call since you began. So a lot of people have talked about what a tremendous year it is, because it forced us all to really reassess and really redesign our businesses and our lives. And, acknowledging that many people had lots of pain and suffering, and those of us who were able to manage, I think it's been phenomenal. So I've been doing virtual presentations since 1997. And but this year it forced me, because of some of the tech issues that I'm experiencing right now, where neither of my cameras are working, and they worked just fine yesterday. So it forced me to really dive in. I got my certified virtual presenter designation. I realized the irony of that here I show my cameras, and yet I'm a certified virtual presenter. So it enabled me then to just pivot quickly into doing multi-part. I do now 5 and 6 part leadership and management academies for my clients, where we do it virtually and we do an hour and a half every week, and they get so much out of it because it's extended over time. They have homework in between, etc. So that's been phenomenal, and I feel like I'm really serving my clients at the highest level that I can, because I'm really seeing the behavior change even within a 6-week period, frankly, even within a 1-week period between the first week and the second week. So I love that. And as you know, when I was on with you, we talked about psychological safety.
We did.
And I'm finding that as Tiwana talked about the great, resignation. So, we all know why people say they are getting ready to resign. 25% of the workplace says they're looking for a new job. I think in part it's because during the pandemic, they did not feel psychologically safe. They, for those 25 who are looking, it's part of why they're looking, because that's why they don't put themselves on camera, because they're afraid of being judged around their surroundings. They feel surveilled by their employer, just lots of things that went into that. And so I'm integrating that into these multi-part leadership and management academies. And then also, as a result of getting this certified virtual presenter, I've watched 100 hours easily of what people say to do great presentations online, 99% of which was a waste of time. So I called like the best practices of porting what I know makes a great presentation in person to virtual. And now I'm offering 4-part virtual presentation workshops where people look at their background, they look at their lighting, they look at their cameras, etc. Again, irony, I realize. But that's been phenomenal too, because I can help people with just a few tweaks really up their game with their virtual presentations and meetings, make them much more engaging and enlivening.
And teach them that sometimes you just got to roll with the punches, right?
Your message hasn't been lost, Rebecca.
We talk about in the masterclass, we talk about having not only a plan B, but a plan C, D, E. So once I saw that I could upload a static picture, I said, well, it's better than just being the masked panelist on here where you have no idea who this person is. At least you get to see a picture of me on one of my best days with professional hair and makeup.
Upside, right. Oh, thank you so much for making it. Even if we can't see you live, I'm glad to see your face otherwise. This has been a great event. We have so many. I'm so excited about the things that have come up and new topics for the next year. And of course, potential topics for our ConCon event, November 4th and 5th. That'll be a virtual 2-day conference. So we hope to have a bunch of our C3 members, not only there, but also speaking and teaching and co-creating. And I'm excited to know, I think next year in review, I'll want to be like, how did people co-create in the C3 community? So, we're all there. We all have access to each other. Let's co-create. It's amazing what everybody's up to. I'm so grateful to hear that so many of you have had a great year. And the things that have come up about your year have been, will certainly enable my reflection of my year as well. Lawrence, thanks for working things behind the scene. I appreciate you.
I got you. That's what it's all about. It's what it's all about, making sure that we keep things rolling. And again, I'm just sitting back here taking notes. I'm sitting there shouting y'all. I'm like, ooh. That's why I had to put myself on mute. So I've been doing that for the past hour and 9 minutes. I've been like, ooh, that was good. Ooh, look at that. And I'm like, y'all coming off the top rope with elbows. I'm like, oh, y'all got to come back. Like all of the topics y'all have brought up. We are so grateful that you all said yes, first of all, but Absolutely. Then the practitioner of you. And again, the shifts that COVID has caused us all to do. But one of the things that, and I love that, Tawana, you brought it up in that shedding, is that understanding that we're in seasons of life. And all of you I met via here at C3 or another podcast or something else. And I'm grateful. Like I am here today because of nuggets, of pieces, of podcasts, of things that you all have said from your space of expertise that it just lends something. And again, amplifying voice is what me and Karen got into this for, is amplifying your voice, the platform we have it now. And so we're not going to stop until the wheels fall off. So, and even then, we got folks that know how to change tires. So we gonna keep it rolling. Right,
Yes,
y'all, but we're so grateful.
Grateful. Let us know if you guys want to co-create in C3. Like, we don't have to be the only people doing events like these every month. We have so many topics now. We're gonna need probably gonna need some other facilitators and co-hosts. So
we do need other facilitators and co-hosts. So we're gonna just put that out there.
That's right.
There we
Yay.
go. Hey, already. All right.
Thank you, Karen and Lauren, for having us, the dynamic panel of people that you continuously have on, the conversations that you continuously explore, right? You give us room to explore and increase in perspective. So thank you for giving us a beautiful space to come together and glow up in business, personally, professionally, entrepreneurially. It's been amazing being in real connection with you.
Thank you. You are welcome.
And
right,
in the
so,
spirit of what we're talking about as far as co-creating,
yes,
one of the things that I've actually been contemplating currently is actually getting stuff together, and I've been working with some nonprofits on training materials. So if you guys in the C3 community or people that are out there, there's plenty of training materials that can go around.
Absolutely.
So I have leadership training materials for workshops and different things like that. But, one thing I would like to see a lot of, especially in this community, because of the professionals that are in this particular bracket of experience and expertise, is, possibly just getting some type of a library together that we can utilize. Some key ideas, key elements that, are just going to help increase awareness around key areas. Because I think everybody has a lot of good input that could provide some, as Lawrence loves to say, little nuggets of truth.
We actually, I think that's a great idea. So we are going to be putting up the previously recorded episodes of these on a WordPress site so that people can vote for the ConCon event on the topic that resonated the most for them. And I will look into whether WordPress is a tool or Google Drive is a tool, but I think that is a great idea, Curtis. And we'll be moving forward with that. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right, y'all. So until next time, folks that are out there, y'all just saw these amazing people. Be one of them. Reach out to us. The connection and C3 link is in the chat on LinkedIn. Y'all make sure, don't be a stranger. People business is a contact sport. So we want to see you here. We want to see you engaging. And we're looking forward to all that's ahead for ConCon, for this community, and for you. That we're here for you. All right. So Karen, any last words?
Come to ConCon. Come to ConCon. We'll put it on your calendar right now, November 4th and 5th. Plan on being there.
Come to ConCon. All right, y'all. So until next time, hey, be safe, be well, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, everybody.